Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Morning Motivation with Matthew. I'm your host, and today we're going to be diving into a topic that might hit close to home for some of you out there, and that's the struggles of podcasting. Yes, you heard that right. Even something as seemingly simple as podcasting has its own set of challenges. Fear not, because on the other side of those struggles lies hope. We're going to explore that together today. Now, let's get real for a moment. When I first started this podcast, I had all of these grand ideas, visions of inspiring and motivating people every single morning. Or let's just say every week, every other week, or maybe even once a month. But what I quickly realized, it's not as easy as it seemed. There are technical issues, creative blocks, and sometimes it feels like I'm just talking into the void. But let's kind of backtrack a little bit more than that. And I want to make sure that I'm addressing the elephant in the room. And that is by simply addressing where in the world have I been? And if I'm being honest, I haven't really had an opportunity to really conceptualize how it is that I'm actually going to share this. What I will say is that I've certainly been thinking about you all. I've certainly been thinking about coming back to this microphone, sharing my heart, sharing something motivational that will drive and inspire the individuals who listen to this podcast often. Um, and I would probably say just within the last few weeks, maybe even few months, um, it's become apparent to myself that I needed to return back to morning motivation with Matthew. But a few months before then, maybe even before the year started, it was no doubt in my mind that I would return back. Like I had no anticipations on possibly returning back. I would say it's always been a thought in the back of my mind, but it was definitely not at the forefront of what was at the top of my thinking. And I want you to take something in perspective, right? I am, above all, I am a human. And so there are going to be moments where I am on my A game, like I was when I initially started the podcast in 2022, or on my A game like I was at the beginning of last year, coming up with like a lot of different topics. I'm wanting to make sure that I can provide hope and inspiration to individuals who are listening. But I'm human. I am mere human. And that is it. That is all. Outside of that, I am a husband. I'm a father. I work full time. I'm a grad student. I'm a business owner. Um, and there are so many other things that oftentimes, unfortunately, and not unfortunately, that have to take precedence over me really having an opportunity to not so much find the time, but to create the time. Because oftentimes I think that we make a lot of excuses about us not having time to do certain things that we're really passionate about. And then we live with this level of regret of wishing we'd done what it is that we set out to do. And for me, I think that's the one thing I remember sharing with my wife a few months ago, is that the one thing I don't want to do is live with regret. If there's something that I really want to do, I simply want to be able to do it without regret. 10 or 15 years down the line, I want to say I've even shared this on one of my episodes. Um, I don't want to live with regret. I don't want to live with the woulda, shoulda, couldas. I want to know that without the shadow of a doubt that I've done everything that I really wanted to do, to the best of my ability. And so, to be honest, I have just been focused on life and making sure that I am mentally healthy, I am physically healthy, I am spiritually healthy, and all of those things, making sure that my family is well and making sure that we have what we need, making sure that I'm trying all caps to be the best employee that I can possibly be, trying to be the best student that I could possibly be, especially working on a graduate degree. and counseling has not been for the faint of heart. Lots of papers, lots of reading, lots of research, lots of hours in class time, and making sure that I am being very intentional, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, of balancing life in general. And so that's where I've been. There isn't an elegant way to put it. I have simply been doing life. And when I decided to take, I guess what you would like to call a break, because it's been about a year since I've recorded anything. Um, my goal and my hope was to come back with like this brand new podcast, and to be able to have all of this stuff that I wanted to do, video and graphics and all of this other type of stuff. But the more I kept trying to put more energy and effort into doing that, um, the more apparent it became that I was trying to make it something that it didn't necessarily need to be. There are people who are in that space who do extremely well. And I'm going to get there. Trust and believe it's a vision of mine to be able to turn on my camera and let you all see my face as I share my heart's desire and share what the Lord has put on my heart. But I think more than anything, what I feel is just simply that the Lord just wants me to share. The Lord wants me to inspire. He wants me to encourage you, um, to give you hope, and to give myself hope through this platform. And so, it's definitely been quite some time, but I definitely want to really just make sure that, I can share my heart's desire in terms of where I've been. And my hope is to continue and to be consistent, to give you something week over week or every other week that you're able to be inspired by. But there may be moments where I'm like, I don't have capacity. I can't do it this week. But I can promise you that I'm definitely going to try my darndest to make sure that I am just present, and that I am sharing what's on my heart, um, that I'm sharing what the Lord puts on my heart to share with you all, to provide you with some level of hope and inspiration, and to also receive that level of hope and inspiration as well. So that's kind of where I've been. But let's go ahead and kind of dive into, like the challenges, like I was sharing before, of podcasting. And I'll share with you all one of the reasons why, um, it's been so long since I've actually put out a podcast, is because I've also had some technology issues, which I've shared as, being one of the things that can kind of hinder you, being a podcast host. I'm a one-man show. So I do all the recording, all the editing, I do all the social media. So all of this stuff that I do myself. And it has been extremely challenging, especially on some of the platforms that I've used, to be able to record and to be able to edit, and whatnot. And so that's another reason why I haven't been as consistent as I would like to have been in podcasting, because I didn't necessarily make the time in terms of identifying what were some other platforms that I could actually use, until the wonderful podcast platform that I use switched over to another side that is wonderful, that I had difficulties trying to get acclimated to when they first rolled it out. But I'm happy to be here now. And so, oftentimes, as podcast hosts, and maybe you're nodding right along because you've kind of experienced similar struggles in your own endeavors. It Oftentimes it could be a project at work. I know that I've been there. It could be a personal goal, or even just trying to navigate the ups and downs of everyday life. We all face our own set of challenges, and it's easy to feel discouraged. I have felt immensely discouraged in doing podcasting, just because I want to make sure that um, I am living a life where I am giving real hope, right? Not only am I giving real hope, but that I am living in the motivation in which I am providing. And oftentimes, as hosts or as individuals just in general, oftentimes I feel like we have this thing where we have to put out so much. And I'll give it to you in a spiritual context, where we have to give out so much of ourselves, but spiritually we're dying inside, or we're numb to the fact, um, that we don't really have much to give. And so we're giving out to other individuals depleted. And I decided, and one of the reasons why I hadn't been podcasting is because I needed to work on me spiritually. I needed to work on me mentally. And trust me, it is a journey. It is a journey that I am still currently navigating through now. But I didn't want to continue to give out empty. Oftentimes I think as podcast hosts, we also assume that, when we start out, we're going to have an abundance of people listening to us. And that was a struggle of mine. I'm like, I want people to like me. I want to be liked. I want to make sure I'm getting views. I want to make sure I get monetized. I want to make sure that I'm getting paid, blah, 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 blah. But that's not really what and why I started the podcast. I started the podcast because I wanted to be of hope and inspiration to someone, even if it's just one or two or three or four or five people. Like, I wanted to be of hope and inspiration and motivation to someone. And I stopped because I began to um, uh, compare myself to other podcasts who either had just started but already had a platform much bigger than mine, or who had been going for quite some time, and obviously had a significant large platform. But the one thing that I realized in doing podcasting is that it's not about the numbers. And I'm realizing that more and more now as I talk to you. It's not about the numbers, it's about the impact. And if I can impact just one person and sharing some motivation to help somebody get over to the other side, then that's what I'm going to do, because that's the platform that God gave me. Um, you might be feeling discouraged right now, if you're facing obstacles that seem insurmountable. More than anything, I want to remind you, and I want you to remember that there's hope on the other side, right? So I'm talking about my journey and my experience in with podcasts, but you might be going through something completely different than what I'm currently navigating through or trying to navigate through right now. Um, just like how dawn breaks after the darkest night, there's a light waiting to shine through the struggles that we deal with on a daily basis. Um, Another thing I want to kind of highlight on is that, like, every struggle we face is an opportunity for us to grow. It's a chance for us to learn how to adapt, for us to become stronger than what we were before. In the book of Romans, chapter 5, verses 3-4, it says, "Not only so, but there are but we also glory in our sufferings, because we know that suffering produces perseverance, character, and hope." And I want you to really just kind of let that sink in for a moment. Romans chapter 5, verses 3-4. Not only so, but we also glory in our sufferings, because we know that suffering produces perseverance, perseverance, character, and character, hope. Suffering produces perseverance, and perseverance produces character, and character produces hope. It's a beautiful cycle. Our struggles are not meaningless. They shape us into what we're meant to be, and that could be whether you're 20, it could be whether you're 30, it can be whether you're 60 or 70. As long as you have breath in your body, um, you still have an opportunity to be something greater than what you feel like you've seen in yourself. And if you're listening to this and you're thinking about starting your own podcast, or even just simply pursuing other dreams, I really want to encourage you to go for it. I shared that with you just a second ago. Like, I don't want to live with any regrets, especially if God has given me something to do. I want to know with every fiber in my being that whatever the Lord gives me, I have tried my best at doing it and succeeding. And I know that if He's given it to me, He is going to bless it. It may not necessarily happen in the moment, in the time that I want it to happen, but I want to reassure you that if you have something that you want to do, I want you to go for it. Yes, there will be challenges along the way, but remember, with every challenge comes an opportunity for growth and a chance to inspire others with your story. I cannot say that to you enough. It is a chance for you to inspire others with your story. No matter the hardship, no matter the struggle, no matter the pain, no matter the agony, no matter the excitement, no matter the worry that you've had to get to where you are, there is light on the other side of what it is that you are wanting to and hoping to accomplish in any and everything in your life. And I dare you to go after something different. I will give you a prime example. I, when I got married to my wife had just started working on her master's degree. Now, I've been married for 15 years this upcoming May. 15 years. I'm not going to tell you how old I am, but I've been married for 15 years this upcoming May. And my wife had a bachelor's degree in engineering already. She was starting a master's degree in counseling psychology 15 years ago. I worked. My main goal was I'm trying to do a little bit of school at a time because when I got to college and not having anyone there, not having anyone in my family who had really preceded me in college to be able to kind of help navigate me along the way, I was lost going into college. At the time I didn't have a bunch of resources. I don't know who I could go to. I don't know who could inspire me, who could help me. I decided to go to the local community college. Did not do well. Nearly failed out. I don't think I've ever told this story, with the exception of my wife knowing. Nearly failed out of community college. I know without a shadow of a doubt and knew and know now that I was very bright, but I was just simply not applying myself. I was not applying myself. My goal was to work to make sure that I could simply provide for myself because that's what I had to do. I didn't have parents who had gone to college, who set up college funds, who went to college, who could help me navigate the nuances of college, who could really push me and motivate me to make sure that I was doing the absolute best that I could do. My parents were not that. Um, and that's just the honest truth. And so I did the best that I possibly could with what I had. And I lollygagged a lot when I initially started school. I got my wife. I was in school at the time when my wife and I started to date. I was working two full-time jobs and going to school full-time. Let one of the jobs go, and then eventually ended up getting fired from the other job, maybe like a month or two later. In the midst of all of that, I'm just like, I got to keep going. So there was a point in time when I decided to just take a little moment away from school just because I was not doing well. And I eventually, when my son was born, decided to go back to school. My wife had just had him. Again, she was working in career counseling. She had making really good money. I was working at the local hospital, which I resigned from days before he was born because it was just a high stress level job, high blood pressure, overweight, just not healthy, mentally drained from working in inpatient psychiatric unit. I went to school and I took it very seriously. Got my associates, transitioned over to get my bachelor's degree, finished my bachelor's degree. And by the time I was getting ready to finish my bachelor's degree, we were having our second son. And I needed to complete a paper or something. It was something so simple I could do. And for 2 years, I refused to do the paper. Absolutely refused to do the paper because I felt like I did not need to do it. I felt like I had already did everything that I needed to do in order for me to be able to complete my degree requirements. And all I had to, they didn't say take a class. They didn't say to do nothing else. They said, all you need to do is complete this paper for etc. I can't even remember what it was verbatim. And as I was shifting into the year 2020, it was like the Lord was talking to me and saying, like, you got to have it done by this year. You got to get it done before the year's out. And let me tell you, I finished that paper. I finished that paper and I received my bachelor's in December of 2020 after 2 years of knowing that I was already done with the necessary requirements. And I remember my wife saying, "You better hurry up and get that paper done." And she would say it all the time, year after year. "You better hurry up and get that paper done before they change the requirements of your program completion." And I'm like, I ain't doing it. I'm not doing it. And I finally finished that paper. And it was such a liberating feeling for me to have been able to complete that paper. I was ecstatic because not only did I do it for my family, I did it for me because I simply already knew that I could do it. I was killing it in the workforce. Um, Tons of accolades, tons of awards in the workplace, making really good money, taking care of my family. We have stability. But there was something about me wanting to make sure that I can complete my education. And it wasn't just for my family, it was for me to show myself and to prove to myself that I could do it. And then I waited like another year or so for me to decide what I wanted to do with grad school. I knew that I was going to go to grad school, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I was like, am I going to go and get an MBA? Because right now I'm working in corporate America. It makes sense for me to go and get an MBA, but I don't know if I want to be in corporate America long term. I just don't know. When I initially started college after graduating high school, I was double major, pre-med, counseling psychology. And I decided to go and start a grad program. I applied to grad school, got in essentially right away, started grad school um, at the top of 2022, and didn't necessarily have a good experience in the initial program that I was in. Um, Earned a few credits and then transitioned over to another program to where now I literally have 1 year left until I complete my master's degree in counseling. And so I said all of that to say that the one thing I want you all to know is that there is an opportunity, just like I'm telling you all, to inspire others with your story. That's a part of my story. That's a part of my story that I can share with my sons. That's a part of my story that I can share with other young men, especially young Black men. To, if you want to do something, do it. But above all, do it for you first. Um, and that's all I wanted to share. That's all I wanted to share. I'll share with you all that I'm back. I have so much to update you on. I'm looking forward to sharing more. I'm looking forward to inspiring more. I'm looking forward to motivating you all more with where I've been and what I've been navigating through and how I'm doing now and how I'm still learning and growing. But that's all the time that we have for today. I hope this episode left you feeling motivated and inspired to tackle whatever challenge comes your way. And remember, you're stronger than you think, and there is always hope on the other side. Until next time, this is Matthew Gamble signing off. Stay motivated, stay inspired, and have a wonderful, wonderful day. Peace.